Bulls Real Estate. That stock did very, very well in trade. Remember, the promoters had concluded a buyback earlier this month. And the big question really everyone was asking is, have minority stakeholders or shareholders got a raw deal? Because some of them would have tendered in that buyback. And yesterday we saw the big corporate announcement that did come in. But to discuss that in more detail, we have with us Mr. J.N. Gupta, former ED of SEBI, as well as Managing Director at Stakeholders Empowerment Services, who joins us on the phone line. Hi, Mr. Gupta. Thanks so much, sir, for joining in today. First things first, sir, not just for India Bulls Real Estate, but on the whole, when a buyback does conclude, shouldn't there be a cooling off period post that? Is there a cooling off period, first of all, and shouldn't there be one?
See, the law is not clear on this. The law only prohibits that there should not be any further issue of capital for a period of 1 year after the buyback closes. And second buyback also cannot commence within a period of 6 months, something like this. But we must understand that the law cannot envisage each and every situation. We have to go by the spirit of the law. Now, when the law prohibits that no further issue of capital happen, technically speaking, the company can always say that if any merger, demerger takes place, the equity issue can happen because it is with the permission of the High Court or NCLT, as the case may be. But again, the spirit, see what happens when you deal in a buy and sell transaction, it is always said that it is a transaction between a willing buyer and willing seller. But in the stock market situation, it is not the case. In the stock market, it is very clearly that the party who is buying, in this case the company, has to be very, very clear about the disclosures. Now, is it a case of a company that the company till 11th or 14th of April did not know or did not plan any merger or restructuring? It cannot be accepted because it is not possible that suddenly Sunday night they got a dream and they said, okay, let us do this. So it is very clear that it was there in the mind. Therefore, if it was there in the mind, it should have been disclosed to the shareholder, because then shareholder would have taken. In stock market, you said that it is an informed decision that is required to be taken by the shareholder. The entire theme of regulation is that the companies ought to inform shareholders about the details so that shareholders can take an informed decision. In this particular case, the information is missing. Now, what is the outcome? See, India Bulls, if you see their board structure, they have got 3 former Supreme Court judges on the board of India Bull Housing, and maybe 2 former Supreme Court judges are on the board of India Bull Real Estate as well. So probably, as far the legal wisdom is concerned and the legal guidance is concerned, they would have sought legal guidance, and maybe there is not a iota of doubt that legally what they are doing is correct. But our belief is that the legality is one aspect. The governance and good governance begins only when the boundary of legal requirement ends. So here it is a case where, in my opinion, it is not a good governance. Shareholders have not been given full information, and in some of a device or edifice, they have been led to give. And more important is that, if you remember, the buyback said that promoters are not going to participate in the buyback transaction. So that is a very clear indication that the promoters never wanted to dilute their equity in this. And that is where, unfortunately, the shareholders do not understand all the nitty-gritty of the transaction, and they are led to garden paths.
Yes, in fact, the promoter holding would have gone up because they didn't tender in the buyback.
It has gone up by 3%.
Yeah, so, they stand to benefit of the stock being at 144, whereas the minority shareholders tendered at an average price of 80 rupees. So since that level, the stock has moved up 80%. So that's the extent to which, the shareholders have been at a disadvantage. Sir, but from here on, is there any recourse for the minority shareholders? Because as you said, that, legally they are within the boundaries that has been set by the law. So, is there any recourse for the minority shareholders?
See, I would say that there is nothing which is cast in iron in any situation. Now, the shareholders who have done this, it may not be a case that the transaction would be reversed, but they can always appeal to the SEBI and stock exchanges, saying that their information there was not complete.
Correct.
Now it will be the job of regulator to see how they can determine whether the information was complete or not. But one thing is very sure, that nobody will be buying a theory that only after buyback was completed, suddenly an idea triggered in the minds of the company that let us go for restructuring.
Right, but
it is not a sequential event that my mind will start working only after this event happens and my mind will be energized. I don't agree with that logic.
Right, but Mr. Gupta, don't you think, like today it's only about Indiabulls real estate, but don't you think we should have a law in place where, in fact, for future cases like these, minority shareholders, they are really protected. That's the big question. Yes.
Nigel, the issue is very clearly, as it is, everybody complains that SEBI has made so many laws, life is difficult, compliance is difficult, but nobody comes to blame the issuers or companies that it is because of your act that SEBI or any other regulator is forced to make so many laws. And secondly, whenever a lawmaker makes a law, he cannot envisage each and every possible situation that will be coming in future. The idea is, a law is to be respected for its spirit, not for the content alone. Because you cannot envisage millions of situations that I can devise to defraud investors or mislead investors. So the idea is that you have to, and I would say that with due respect to honorable judges on the board, that they should also have seen this, that
right.
Is it fair or unfair?
All right.
Whether the disclosures were proper or not proper.
Okay, Mr. Gupta, pleasure having your, legal as